Dreams and the Spirit, the hidden mirror of the soul. Illumination on the mystery of dreams in the light of the Grail Message. Foreword. The Night Mirror, humanity's forgotten school of the soul. There are two lives man lives, one beneath the sun, and one beneath the veil of night. When the body rests, the spirit awakens to another field of life. Yet man, in his ignorance, calls this mysterious activity dreaming, and often laughs at what he cannot see. He calls it fantasy, illusion, or the restless echo of the mind. But in truth, dreams are not born in the brain. They are woven in the unseen loom of the soul. Every night, the spirit withdraws slightly from its earthly shell to breathe again in the finer realm, a realm more real, more alive, more immediate than the heavy world of flesh. It moves amidst the forms it has attracted through its own nature. For the spirit dwells within a network of laws so perfect that even in sleep it cannot hide what it truly is. Man has long forgotten that sleep was meant to be a sacred schooling. The ancient wise men once guarded this secret. They spoke of night visions that revealed divine counsel, of dreams that warned kings, comforted the weary, or foretold calamity. Yet as mankind sank into intellectual arrogance, it ceased to understand. Dreams were reduced to brain waves, to psychology, to random firings of nerve cells. The inner world was sealed off by disbelief. But the spirit cannot be silenced. Through the dream, it continues to speak, though distorted by the fog of earthly impurity. The pure see light, the impure, confusion. The spirit speaks to each according to what he has made himself. This book is written for those who seek to remember that lost connection, that sleep is not unconsciousness, but transition, that dreams are not chaos, but mirror, that the night is not void, but filled with law and light. The Grail Message, in the light of truth, opens once more this forgotten gate, showing the eternal laws that govern even man's dreaming. When man rediscovers this, the night will no longer be darkness to him. It will become revelation. Preface. The Unseen Journey, the Spirit's Wanderings in Sleep. When man sleeps, the body does not think, yet the spirit remains awake. The body is a garment, the spirit is the wearer. In the stillness of slumber, the threads that bind spirit to body loosen, though not break. The spirit steps gently into the finer fields surrounding the earth, into the ethereal world, which, though unseen, penetrates all matter and forms the true background of existence. In that moment, man stands amidst forms built from his own thoughts, desires, and intuitions. What he has sown in the waking hours rises before him as living pictures. This is the lawful mechanism of dreams. They are reflections of what man truly bears within himself. The restless, the fearful, and the impure wander through distorted landscapes of confusion. The serene and upright move among harmonious forms, or receive uplifting guidance from purer spheres. Thus every man builds his own dream world, not through imagination, but through attraction. The brain, upon waking, merely receives the afterimages of this spiritual activity. These impressions pass through the frontal and back brain, where they are translated into earthly pictures and emotions. What science observes as dream patterns are but the faintest ripples of this deeper current. The purpose of dreams is not entertainment, nor prophecy at whim. They are lawful outworkings, reflections, warnings, corrections, or confirmations. They mirror the state of the inner man and offer opportunity for renewal if rightly understood. Man must, therefore, cease to treat dreams as childish fantasies or occult secrets. They are natural, lawful expressions of life beyond the dense veil of matter. And as in all things, truth about them can only be grasped through the light of spiritual understanding, through recognition of the laws of creation as revealed in the Grail Message. This book is written not to speculate, but to restore order, to correct the errors of science, religion, and mysticism alike. For dreams, rightly understood, show the justice and mercy of the Creator even in man's sleep. Introduction. The hidden theater, the many worlds reflected in the dream. Every man lives in two worlds, the outer and the inner. The outer is seen with eyes, the inner is perceived through the soul. Between them stands the bridge of radiation, a living tension that unites the visible with the invisible. Dreams arise upon this bridge. They are not delusions, nor divine interruptions, but lawful reflections, images projected into man's consciousness as the spirit's experiences are transmitted through the delicate instrument of the brain. As light passing through colored glass takes on its hue, so too the pure spiritual impressions become colored by the moral and psychic condition of the dreamer. When the brain awakens, it translates these impressions into pictures drawn from its own earthly store of symbols and memories. Thus the same spiritual event may appear to one as radiant light and to another as confusion or fear. The event is the same, only the vessel differs. In the Grail Message, it is revealed that all of creation operates through immutable laws, the law of reciprocal action, the law of attraction of homogeneous species, and the law of gravity among others. Dreams, too, follow these same laws. Nothing in them is arbitrary or without cause. When a man's thoughts are pure, his nightly activity leads him to regions of light. When his thoughts are dark, his spirit gravitates toward murky planes filled with the images of his own making. The so-called nightmare is often nothing more than a spirit trapped among the fruits of its daytime sowing. Thus, the dream reveals truth, not about the outer world, but about the inner one. It shows what man hides from himself in daylight. It unveils the harvest of his thoughts, the atmosphere of his soul. The ancients once approached dreams with reverence because they sensed this sacred lawfulness. The prophets of old received warnings and comfort in visions of the night because their spirits were attuned to higher radiations. But in modern times, man's intellect, cold, dissecting, and self-exalting, has torn the sacred from the natural. The mystery of dreams was handed over to laboratories and experimenters, who, unable to measure the spirit, declared it myth. Yet even science cannot silence what is eternal. Every night, mankind steps into that same mystery. The dream remains, faithful, lawful, revealing. Therefore, this book seeks not to mystify, but to clarify, not to preach superstition, but to restore understanding in the light of the eternal laws. It is written for scientists who wish to see deeper, for psychologists who dare to look beyond the brain, for seekers who desire truth more than theories. The Grail light shines upon the forgotten threshold of night and says, "Awake, O sleeper, not only from your bed, but from your blindness. For what you call dreams are but the faint whispers of the world to which you truly belong." Part 1. The Nature of Dreaming. Chapter 1. The Veil of Sleep, the Spirit's Liberation from the Body. When the eyes close and the body grows still, man believes that he sleeps. He thinks that life has paused, that consciousness has withdrawn into darkness. Yet in truth, it is only the body that rests, never the spirit. The spirit does not need sleep, it is life itself. In the stillness of night, the spirit loosens its hold upon the dense physical vessel. The connection between the soul and body, that delicate silver-like cord known in the Grail Message as the radiation thread, remains unbroken but relaxed. Through this loosening, the spirit rises into the finer strata of the ethereal world, the realm nearest to the physical earth, which interpenetrates and sustains all material forms. Here, man moves in the garments of his finer body, seeing, feeling, and experiencing in the same way he does when awake, yet without the dense weight of flesh. This condition is what men call dreaming. To the unawakened spirit, heavy with passions, anxiety, or selfish thoughts, this transition is chaotic. The impressions received in the ethereal world appear as jumbled scenes or shifting forms when translated through the coarse instrument of the brain. Such confusion arises not from the spirit's movement, but from its impurity and disharmony with the law. But to the pure in heart, the disciplined, the inwardly harmonious, the same process yields radiant clarity. The spirit moves consciously among luminous forms, meeting teachers, receiving enlightenment, or perceiving warnings from the light. These, men of old called, visions of the night. Thus, dreams are not fantasies. They are the lawful activity of the spirit set free for a time from the confines of flesh. The spirit lives always, whether in the day through the body, or in the night beyond it. Sleep, therefore, is not the cessation of life, but its continuation in another field of experience. To know this is to begin to understand that dreams belong to the realm of law, the same laws that govern all creation. In every dream, something of man's inner nature is revealed. Chapter 2. The Mirror of the Soul, How Dreams Are Formed. Every dream is a reflection of what man bears within himself. The law of spiritual motion ensures that during sleep, the spirit is drawn into regions and surroundings of similar vibration. Thus, the fearful move among fearful forms, the lustful among shadowy shapes, and the serene among luminous landscapes. Each finds his own kind. The Grail Message teaches that the entire creation is woven of radiations. Every thought, emotion, and desire a man harbors sends out a vibration, forming subtle images in the ethereal world. These images, charged by will, live, some for a moment, others for years, depending on the strength of their creator. When the spirit withdraws during sleep, it walks amidst these very forms it has fashioned in the waking state. Therefore, the content of one's dream is not random. It is the harvest of the day, the mirror of the soul. The angry man meets his anger in symbolic scenes, the envious man, his jealousy, the pure, his peace. Dreams are thus moral barometers, not moral in human sense, but lawful in cosmic sense. Yet man often awakes and laughs at what he sees. He says, "It was only a dream," not knowing that he has just walked among the living results of his own inner world. When he returns to the body, the impressions of this activity pass through the delicate channels of the back brain, the bridge between spirit and matter, and are then transmitted to the frontal brain, where the earthly consciousness dwells. There, they are translated into earthly symbols drawn from memory, language, and imagination. This is why dreams seem illogical. They are spiritual events clothed hastily in the material garments of thought. To understand dreams truly, one must therefore look beyond symbols and imagery, to the feeling and radiation behind them. The truth of every dream lies not in its picture, but in the spiritual vibration it carries. Chapter 3. The Worlds Within Worlds, the Realms of Dream Activity. Creation is not a single plane, but a vast structure of layers, from the densest material to the highest luminous spiritual spheres. Every layer is inhabited by forms appropriate to its radiation. The Grail Message calls this the structure of creation, a harmonious ladder of substance and vibration. When man sleeps, his spirit moves within this structure according to its weight or purity. Most humans today, burdened by earthly passions, can rise only slightly above the physical world, into the lower ethereal regions that still border the earth. There, they meet images of their daily thoughts, the fragments of their desires, and reflections of their anxieties. A smaller number, purified by earnest striving and inner clarity, ascend to the higher ethereal planes. There they receive true guidance, renewal, and strength. These are the few whose dreams uplift rather than confuse. Still fewer reach even higher, into the spiritual realms, where light beings dwell and divine instruction flows unbroken. These are the prophets, the seers, the awakened. Their dreams are not dreams at all, but spiritual experiences transmitted through the purified vessel of the soul. The diversity of dreams thus arises from the diversity of man's spiritual state. Every level corresponds to a different kind of perception. Lower ethereal dreams reflect self-made thought forms and fears. Middle ethereal dreams express messages of warning or guidance from higher helpers. Upper ethereal and spiritual dreams bring direct inspiration or enlightenment from the light. But man, in his ignorance, calls all these by one name, dream. And thus confusion reigns. He equates his restless visions with the sacred revelations of the prophets. In this lies one of humanity's gravest errors. The first task of the seeker, therefore, is discrimination, to discern from where a dream proceeds. This discernment can arise only through purity, humility, and knowledge of the laws. Chapter 4. The Record of the Day, Dreams as the Spirit's Accounting. Nothing passes unrecorded in the creation. Every thought, every feeling, every word vibrates and forms a seed. In the hours of sleep, these seeds sprout into visible forms before the spirit. Thus, the dream serves also as an accounting. The spirit sees what it has sown, not as moral punishment, but as the natural outworking of law. Through this nightly revelation, the human being is given a chance to recognize himself. When one dreams of fear, it is not that he is punished, but that he has shown his inner weakness. When he dreams of flight, it often reflects his attempt to escape responsibility. When he dreams of light, it may symbolize spiritual awakening. Each dream, rightly viewed, offers an opportunity for self-correction. But few use it so. The careless dismiss dreams as illusions, the superstitious exaggerate them into prophecies. Both err, for they miss the true value, instruction through reflection. Every dream, therefore, is a lesson. It may show the harm of wrong thought, the echo of an emotion, or the nearness of helpful radiations. In the Grail light, it becomes clear that this, too, is an expression of divine love, that even in man's slumber, providence continues to guide him toward recognition and amendment. If man would but learn to approach his dreams with humility and sincerity, not curiosity or vanity, they would once again serve their true purpose, as quiet companions in the soul's journey homeward. Part 2. The False Lights, Misinterpretations, Mediums, and the Deceptions of the Dream World. Chapter 5. The Mist of the Lower Realms, When Shadows Masquerade as Light. From the moment man turned away from the quiet voice within and began to seek marvels outside himself, the purity of his dream life began to dim. He ceased to live in harmony with the law, and thus lost the clarity of the spirit's sight. In this estrangement, the lower ethereal regions, once transparent bridges to the higher planes, thickened into mists where deceptive forms could take shape. In these mists, the remnants of human thought, passion, and fantasy swirled together. Every unbridled desire, every greedy longing, every false imagination takes on a semblance of life in the ethereal substance surrounding the earth. These are the phantom regions where man often wanders during sleep, thinking he has seen revelation, when in truth he has seen only his own projections reflected back at him. Such dreams are not messages from the light but echoes of the unpurified soul. They deceive, not because the Creator deceives, but because man's own impurity clouds his sight. The law of radiation ensures that each man finds exactly what he has sent forth. The liar meets false images, the vain encounters flattering visions, and the arrogant sees crowns where there is only dust. The Grail Message reveals that these mists, though self-made, are not harmless. They draw power from the very attention man gives them. When he wakes and proclaims, "I have seen a revelation," though the vision was born of his vanity, he lends his own life force to strengthen illusion. And so the lower realms teem with seductive shapes that whisper half-truths to the unguarded. This is how many false revelations, sects, and movements have been born. The shadow takes the form of light, and men, having lost their inner clarity, follow it into deeper confusion. Only purity of will, silence of heart, and humility before the truth can pierce these mists. For the light never shouts, it radiates. He who quiets himself in obedience to the divine law will at last behold the true gleam beyond illusion. Chapter 6. The Mirage of Mediums, the Peril of Psychic Dreaming. Throughout history, countless men and women have claimed to receive messages from spirits, guides, or ascended beings during sleep or trance. Some of these indeed experienced genuine spiritual encounters, but most moved only within the deceptive lower layers of the beyond. True communication between spirit and light requires purity and lawful resonance. The pure in heart draw upward, the impure attract what is of like density. Mediumistic dreamers, those who open their inner senses without purification, become instruments for the play of wandering ethereal entities. These beings, no longer incarnate but still earthbound through attachment, project images and thoughts into the receptive mind of the sleeper. The resulting dreams seem luminous and powerful, yet lack the quiet harmony of truth. The Grail Message calls this the danger of unguarded opening. For when the will is not anchored in the light, every opening becomes a door for intrusion. Mediumistic dreamers and so-called psychics thus often mix truth with delusion, interpreting lower ethereal reflections as divine messages. Their followers, impressed by vivid imagery or prophetic tone, mistake glamour for revelation. The true servant of the light never seeks communication, he simply lives in such purity that lawful contact with higher helpers arises naturally. It is not the act of summoning that reveals truth, but the condition of being in resonance with truth. Therefore, the seeker must beware of dreams that flatter, promise power, or excite vanity. The voice of the spirit is quiet, firm, and law-bound. It does not dramatize nor confuse. It brings peace, not agitation, simplicity, not spectacle. Let man, then, guard his inner sanctuary, for the dream is a mirror, and only the pure can see the true reflection. Chapter 7. The Tyranny of Interpretation, when man makes gods of his symbols. Dream interpretation has, from antiquity, become a field of speculation. Men, unwilling to live rightly so that clarity may come naturally, prefer to construct systems, dictionaries, and formulas for decoding the unseen. They classify the living law of the spirit into lifeless codes, saying, if you see water, it means this, if you see a snake, it means that. Thus, what should be a sacred mirror becomes a game of intellect. The intellect, however, belongs to the material brain, it cannot penetrate into the spirit's domain. It analyzes, compares, and defines, but it cannot see. And so men, with sharpened intellects but veiled souls, have replaced inner hearing with mental gymnastics. The result is arrogance disguised as wisdom. The Grail Message admonishes that truth cannot be captured by systems or symbols. Each dream is a unique formation arising from individual radiations, karmic threads, and spiritual state. No two are identical, and no symbol means the same for all. The attempt to universalize meaning is a rebellion against the law of living movement. Furthermore, when the intellect assumes authority over the spirit, it commits a grave trespass, it silences intuition. The sacred voice that would have revealed the dream's essence is drowned by restless interpretation. True understanding arises only through quiet inward perception. When a man awakes from a dream, he must first still his thoughts and feel the vibration it left behind. Was it heavy or light? Peaceful or disturbing? Uplifting or oppressive? In that vibration lies the meaning. Words are only the outer garments, the living feeling is the message. Therefore, the seeker must learn again to feel rather than to reason about his dreams. For only feeling, the spiritual perception born of purity, can interpret the language of the beyond. Chapter 8. The False Doctrine of Astral Freedom, Lucid Dreams and Soul Wanderings. In the modern age, many pride themselves on mastering their dreams, calling it lucid dreaming, or astral projection. They train themselves to control dream states, to fly at will, to shape landscapes, or to meet entities of their choosing. To them this is freedom, but it is a freedom without light. What they truly achieve is not ascent but manipulation of the lowest ethereal plane. For the purest regions of the beyond cannot be entered by willful experimentation. They open only to the humble, the silent, the obedient spirit. Lucid dreamers may indeed experience flights, journeys, or encounters, yet these are self-projections woven from the material of their own thought forms. They are real as images, but not real in spiritual truth. They belong to the world of reflections, not of essence. To dwell too long there hardens the attachment of the soul to the ethereal shell, hindering its upward striving. The Grail Message warns that every misuse of the finer faculties draws consequences. To enter the beyond without spiritual maturity is like walking into lightning with bare hands. The radiation of those realms obeys law, not curiosity. True spiritual journeying, the rising of the soul into higher planes, cannot be achieved through will or technique. It happens only when the soul has become light enough. It is grace, not experiment. Therefore, let man abandon the craving to master the unseen. Let him rather purify himself, and the unseen will reveal itself to him lawfully. The light seeks no spectacle, it seeks readiness. Chapter 9. The Echoes of the Mind, How Science and Psychology Fell Short. Science, in its noble effort to understand the mind, has examined dreams through the narrow lens of the material brain. It sees neurons firing, memories reorganizing, chemicals shifting, and concludes that dreams are nothing more than byproducts of biology. In doing so, it has confined the boundless spirit to the smallness of flesh. Psychology, taking a step further, explores symbols and unconscious desires. It sees value in dreams as reflections of the psyche but still ignores the luminous origin beyond matter. It mistakes the reflections in the pond for the sun itself. The Grail Message brings correction. Both science and psychology study effects, not causes. The brain is only the instrument, the player is the spirit. Dreams arise not from the brain but through it. The back brain serves as the bridge for the impressions the spirit gathers beyond. The frontal brain interprets these impressions into earthly pictures. If the instrument is clean, the transmission is pure. If it is clouded by worry, vice, or exhaustion, distortion arises. This is why scientists find dreams random, because their instruments of observation are bound to earth, blind to the life that animates it. They measure shadows and argue about their length, never realizing that the sun stands just above them. Nevertheless, science performs a service. It maps the physical correspondences that reflect spiritual law. For every movement of the spirit produces an echo in the body. When science learns to interpret those echoes without pride, it will rediscover the bridge to the eternal law it once dismissed. Chapter 10. The Way Out of Confusion, Purity, Simplicity, and Truth. Having seen how illusion, intellect, and vanity cloud man's understanding of dreams, what then is the way out? The answer shines as it always has, in purity of thought, humility of heart, and obedience to the divine law. When man lives simply, when his heart is sincere and his will directed toward good, the radiations around him clarify. The mists that once distorted his nightly experiences disperse, and the voice of truth begins to reach him again. He need not force, summon, or interpret. He need only become clear. Then, whether asleep or awake, his perception remains aligned with the light. The Grail Message teaches that all confusion ends the moment man recognizes that every true knowing comes through the spirit, not the brain. The spirit, when pure, receives truth directly, wordlessly, perfectly. Dreams then become not puzzles to solve, but gentle reminders of what the spirit already knows. Thus, the way back to clarity is not study, not technique, but purification. As man cleanses his inner life of vanity, lust, fear, and pride, the voice within, once drowned by noise, will again resound. The intuitive perception, the purest organ of spiritual hearing, will awaken. Then, his dreams will no longer deceive, but instruct. Part 3. The Light of Truth. Chapter 11. The Law of Resonance, the True Source of Meaning. All life in creation moves according to law, not a law written by men, but one woven into the fabric of existence, the law of resonance. Through this law, every vibration attracts that which is of its kind. Every thought, every feeling, every desire sends forth a vibration that seeks its likeness in the boundless fields of existence. So also in dreams. When man sleeps, his soul loosens from the weight of the body. Freed from the senses, it vibrates in the sphere corresponding to its inner condition. The dream is therefore not an arbitrary sequence of images, but a reflection of where the soul stands within this vast web of spiritual resonance. A dream of fear draws from the realm of fear. A dream of purity and peace draws from luminous regions. A prophetic dream arises when the spirit momentarily touches a current of truth through inner harmony with the light. Resonance is therefore the true key to meaning. The intellect may analyze symbols, dissect emotions, or apply psychology, but it cannot penetrate the law that gives rise to them. Only the spirit, when alive, humble, and pure, can feel the meaning that corresponds to its own vibration. For this reason, no external interpreter, no dream dictionary, no psychic can give the ultimate truth of a dream. They may guess or project, but the true interpretation arises only within, when the same vibration that produced the dream awakens again in consciousness and becomes illumined by the light. When the law of resonance is understood, man no longer fears dreams or misuses them for curiosity. He begins to see that every dream is a mirror of the spiritual state he carries within himself. And thus, every night becomes an opportunity for recognition, purification, and ascent. Reflection. The meaning of your dream is determined by the light you carry, not by the symbols you see. Strive first to purify your inner vibration, and the truth will interpret itself. Chapter 12. The Radiant Dream, when the spirit receives illumination. There are dreams, rare and precious, that come not from man's own soul, but from above, from luminous realms where truth streams forth like living light. Such dreams are not woven from the threads of memory or desire. They descend as a gift, an illumination to the receptive spirit. The radiant dream does not confuse. It calms, strengthens, and uplifts. Its light does not fade upon waking. It leaves behind a quiet certainty, a fragrance of purity, a moral clarity. These are the dreams the prophets spoke of, the dreams that turned men's hearts toward repentance or service. But even they did not arise at random. They came only when the soul's vibration harmonized with the will of God, when it had become still enough for the light to be reflected within it. The radiant dream is never sensational. It bears no vanity, no personal exaltation. It speaks simply, yet its power endures for years. Many mistake emotional or psychic dreams for these radiant ones. The difference lies not in the imagery, but in the after effect. A false dream agitates, a true one sanctifies. The first leaves the spirit restless, the second leaves it humbled and clear. In such moments of illumination, the spirit receives guidance, not as command or compulsion, but as awakening. It suddenly knows what it must do, or what it must cease doing. This is the true blessing of the radiant dream, that it reawakens conscience in the light of truth. Reflection. Not all dreams come from the light. Only the spirit purified by truth and love becomes the vessel for illumination. Seek not visions, but clarity, and the light will reach you when the time is right. Chapter 13. The Interpreter Within, reading dreams through intuition. Every man carries within himself a silent interpreter, the intuition. It is the inner voice of the spirit, the pure sense that receives and translates truth directly, without the detour of reasoning. In dreams, this inner interpreter continues its work. Yet upon waking, the intellect often drowns it with analysis and logic, turning luminous impressions into confusion. The intellect dissects, intuition knows. To understand a dream aright, man must turn not outward to others, but inward to this still flame within himself. He must approach it with reverence, not curiosity, with humility, not ambition. For the intuition speaks only in stillness. It is like a harp string that can vibrate only when the winds of thought have ceased. When one sits quietly with a dream, not thinking about it but feeling it, the meaning begins to rise from within, often as a simple knowing, without words. At that moment, the interpreter within is at work. But if pride, fear, or self will enter, the vibration breaks. The intellect rushes in to replace silence with speculation. Then error begins, and man calls it interpretation. True dream understanding is therefore not an act of thinking, but of receiving. It is an art of listening to what the light reflects through one's own state of soul. To read dreams rightly, one must live rightly. Purity of life, truthfulness, gratitude, and service, these are the preconditions for clear intuition. Where these are absent, the interpreter within remains veiled. Reflection. Do not analyze your dreams. Awaken your spirit instead. For only the awakened spirit can read what heaven writes upon the veil of sleep. Chapter 14. The dream is warning, mirror, or promise. Dreams serve different purposes, in accordance with the needs of the spirit and the guidance of the law. Some come as warnings, some as mirrors, and some as promises, each serving the eternal goal of man's ripening toward perfection. The dream is warning. When man strays from his true path, when arrogance blinds him or temptation grows strong, a dream may arise as merciful admonition. It may show him the consequence of his deeds, the shadow of his thoughts, or the approach of danger. Such dreams often carry vivid images, fear, or urgency, not to frighten, but to awaken. If he heeds, he is saved from pain. If he mocks, he must learn through experience what was shown in mercy. The dream is mirror. These dreams simply reflect the soul's present state, its attachments, fears, and hidden motives. They are not prophecies, but revelations. They hold up to man the mirror of his inner life so he may see himself as he truly is. Such dreams, when received with humility, are among the greatest gifts, for they help the honest soul to purify and ascend. The dream is promise. When the spirit has endured darkness and remained faithful to truth, a dream of light may come as gentle reward, a promise of the dawn. Such dreams often depict radiant landscapes, encounters with luminous beings, or the return of peace after struggle. They do not flatter, but console and strengthen. They whisper of realities beyond this world and fill the soul with quiet trust in the eternal goodness of God. Every dream, whether warning, mirror, or promise, must be approached with reverence. To misuse it for prediction, curiosity, or vanity is to profane a sacred gift. The wise soul thanks the light for the glimpse, and then seeks to live in accordance with the truth it revealed. Reflection. Every dream calls you to greater awareness. Ask not, what will happen? But, what must I become? Part 4. Awakening to Conscious Clarity. Chapter 15. The Purified Sleep, Preparing the Soul for True Rest. Sleep was given to man as mercy, a rhythmic release of the soul from the dense garment of the body, so that it may renew itself in finer spheres. But for most of humanity, sleep has become a descent into confusion, because the soul, weighted by passions, anxieties, and unclean thoughts, drifts toward murky regions that correspond to its vibration. The Grail light teaches, as a man lives, so does he sleep. The condition of the soul by day determines the realm it enters by night. Therefore, the preparation for true rest begins not at bedtime, but in daily living, in purity of thought, nobility of intention, and faithfulness to the light. When the day is filled with disorder, deception, lust, or hatred, the night cannot bring clarity. The soul, freed from the body, finds itself amid similar dissonant vibrations, wandering through images born of its own corruption. These are the dreams that exhaust rather than refresh, the restless sleep that brings no renewal. But when the soul has been purified, when it has learned gratitude, simplicity, and truth, then sleep becomes luminous. The spirit, free of burden, rises effortlessly into radiant plains where help and strength flow toward it. It drinks of light, regains harmony, and returns at dawn strengthened in peace. Such sleep is true rest. Before closing the eyes, therefore, let man cleanse the inner chamber of his thoughts. Let him forgive, reconcile, and give thanks. Let him lift his heart to the light with humility and trust. Then shall sleep become a sanctuary, and the night a silent communion between the human spirit and the divine will. Reflection. The peace of sleep begins with the peace of conscience. He who lives rightly rests in light, he who carries deceit sleeps in darkness. Chapter 16. The Inner Wakefulness, Living so clearly that dreams teach no more. When the spirit has matured in clarity, it no longer requires dreams as teachers. It has awakened to a higher state, inner wakefulness. This condition marks the beginning of true spiritual adulthood. The man who has attained it lives each moment in conscious connection with the light. He no longer receives instruction through symbols or shadows, for truth streams to him directly, as pure perception in waking life. He becomes awake within the will of God. In this state, all life speaks, not only through dreams, but through events, words, encounters, and silence. Every occurrence is recognized as a message, every experience is a thread woven by divine law. Such a man no longer separates waking and dreaming. For him, existence is one continuous dialogue with the eternal. The inner wakefulness does not depend on intellectual mastery or mystical exercises. It is born of purity, the quiet transparency of a spirit that has become clear of self-deception. It is a fruit of obedience, humility, and reverent trust. When man lives thus, his nights grow still. Dreams become gentle reflections, simple and calm, without distortion or fear. They no longer instruct, but confirm what the spirit already knows. The once necessary language of symbols becomes unnecessary, for truth now shines plainly. The veil between sleep and wakefulness thins until, finally, the soul stands in perpetual awareness, luminous in its simplicity, steadfast in the light. This is the destiny of every spirit, to awaken. Reflection. He who awakens in spirit no longer dreams, he lives in light. The purpose of dreams is fulfilled when man becomes what he once only saw. Conclusion. The dawn within, from dreaming to knowing. The history of human dreaming is the story of man's gradual return from darkness to light, from separation to unity, from confusion to recognition. In his ignorance, man took his dreams for illusions, oracles, or chemical processes. Yet behind every dream lay the silent effort of the spirit to communicate with its origin, to remember what it had forgotten in the noise of intellect and desire. Now, in the time of awakening, the purpose of dreams stands revealed. They were bridges, temporary means to recall the reality of the spirit while man was still asleep within matter. But the bridge is not the destination. When man begins to live consciously according to the laws of the Creator, in purity, love, justice, and obedience, the bridge dissolves. Dream gives way to knowing. Reflection gives way to light. Symbol gives way to reality. This dawning of spiritual clarity is the new morning for humanity, the time foretold when the sleepers shall awaken. It is not an age of visions and miracles, but of clear recognition. The age of the intuitive spirit, freed from superstition, intellectual tyranny, and psychic deceit. The true dawn is within. It arises when the soul ceases to chase outer mysteries and begins to live the simple, luminous truth that has always spoken from within, the voice of the Spirit, born of the will of God. Reflection. You dreamed that you were human, now awaken and remember that you are spirit. The dawn has come, not above you, but within you. Epilogue. The sleepless flame, the spirit that never slumbers. Beyond the cycles of waking and sleeping, beyond the alternation of night and day, there burns within every human being a flame that never sleeps. It is the eternal core, the spirit spark, that comes from the breath of God. It is untouched by dreams, unwearied by time, unbroken by death. When man identifies with his body, he calls himself tired. When he lives from his soul, he calls himself dreaming. But when he awakens as spirit, he knows himself as eternal wakefulness, a flame in the eternal light. The true rest of this flame is not sleep but harmony. The spirit rests when it moves in perfect rhythm with the will of God. Its sleep is not unconsciousness, but stillness, like a star resting in its orbit, radiant and at peace. This sleepless flame is man's true self. Every night's slumber, every dream, every struggle to understand is a step toward rediscovering it. When the illusions fall away, the spirit stands unveiled, bright, pure, and awake. The wise no longer seek dreams or visions, they live as flames, steadfast, luminous, and serene. And when at last the body falls away like a husk, this inner flame continues onward, rejoicing in its freedom. It neither wakes nor sleeps, it is. For it abides forever in the eternal presence, where the will of God and the spirit of man are one. Reflection. There is no sleep in the light. There is only rest in the perfect rhythm of love. Become the flame, and you will never again fear the night. Appendix. The path of clarification. Practical guidance for the seeker. Before sleep. Purify your mind through truthfulness and forgiveness. Give thanks for the day and entrust yourself to the light. Let go of all worry and desire. Let only gratitude remain. Upon waking. Recall the feeling, not the imagery, of your dreams. Ask what vibration they revealed within you. Turn the recognition into action. Purify, correct, uplift. Daily living. Guard your thoughts and emotions. They shape the worlds you touch in sleep. Seek clarity and simplicity. Avoid sensationalism in dream matters. Live truthfully, and the need for interpretation will fade. For scientists and psychologists, recognize the spiritual dimension of consciousness. Dreams are lawful expressions of the soul's resonance, not chaotic chemical events. For spiritual seekers, shun psychic exploration and artificial awakening. Seek inner stillness. The true revelation comes only from the light. For all humanity, live in purity. Listen to the intuition. Walk in obedience to the will of God. Then shall sleep, dream, and wakefulness become one harmonious rhythm of life in the light. And the mystery of dreams, once a puzzle of the night, will reveal itself as part of the eternal melody of the Creator's love.